What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about Karens, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. And as usual, we got some more Reddit posts to check out today, so feel free to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments and we're getting right into it. My neighbor won't stop harassing us over chasing the deer out of our yard. We live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My boyfriend, 30, owns the house. I, female 29, moved in 1.5 years ago with my dogs. I was friendly with the neighbor's girlfriend, 40s, when we first moved in. They have a small daughter and the two of them have come into our yard multiple times to pet my dogs. Everything was fine until the neighborhood deer had babies, and suddenly we weren't able to use our backyard anymore. The deer became extremely aggressive. We live on a very busy road, but for a time I was taking the dogs to potty out front on lead. However, this is extremely tedious, and once baby deer season was over, we resumed using our backyard. Except the deer have continued to be aggressive. I want to be clear, I trained my dogs from the get-go to leave the deer alone. My dogs are very well trained. Yet still, the deer have charged my dogs on multiple occasions. One occasion, my boyfriend physically shoved the deer away from my dog. Another occasion, my dog was just going potty and the deer charged from a catty corner yard into our yard at my dog. I brought this up several times with the girlfriend. She dismissed me. See, they've been hand-feeding the deer for a decade. They love the deer. The neighbors showed no regard for our safety. The deer are clearly protective and territorial of their food source. The deer are not afraid of humans. They do not run away when we approach the deer. The deer stomp their hooves at us and show other aggressive behaviors. Because of this, my boyfriend brings his firearm outside and pepper spray. We've become more aggressive in our approach. We've begun throwing tree branches and trash bins at the deer to get them to run away so we can use our backyard. We clear the deer out before letting the dogs out. The neighbor's boyfriend has a huge problem with this and has gotten on us about our dogs as revenge. He has begun screaming at us to keep our dog out of his yard. My dogs have never been in their yard. There is a clear boundary. Their yard is higher than ours, and there's trees and vegetation that separate our yards. We let the dogs outside 4 times a day, always under supervision. They go potty and come right back inside. They do not bark or cause any nuisance. The neighbor screams at us that my, quote, pit bull isn't contained because he's off lead in the backyard and I'm breaking the law. As far as my research has shown, my dogs must be under control as far as the law states. I assume this means verbal control as well. My dogs are not pit bulls. They do not even look at the neighbors. They are older dogs and are very calm. There have been times the deer are startled and come running through our yard and around my dogs, and my dogs have not given chase. I cannot stress enough that my dogs have not done anything to deserve the neighbor's vitriol. Yesterday, the neighbor man came into our yard to yell at my boyfriend for chasing the deer. He then screamed at us for having a pit bull and he has a young daughter and he's worried about her safety. And he's called the city to report our dogs as unregistered. As far as I know, we took care of registration at the vet. If they're not registered, I have no issues rectifying that. I moved from out of state, so they were not previously registered. They are up to date on all vaccinations. Clearly, my dogs are not the issue, and he's seeking anything that he can get us in trouble with, because we're disturbing their deer. I am sick and tired of the harassment. At what stage can we get a restraining order against the neighbors? We've found rotten food, corn cobs in our yard from them feeding the deer. Their cat also leaves dead animals on our deck. Update. I just spoke with my boyfriend and learned more information. Before I went outside, they were arguing and the neighbor was taunting my boyfriend to go into their yard, wanting to fight my boyfriend and was clutching his front as if he had a concealed firearm. My boyfriend said we're calling tomorrow for a survey and getting a fence ASAP. Yeah, they should definitely get that fence up soon. The only people in this story that are actually in the wrong are the neighbors. In general, feeding wild animals is not a good thing, and this is a great example of why. It's a danger for both the wildlife and people. When these wild animals that are supposed to stay wild become too accustomed to humans because they're fed by them, then it starts causing problems and becomes a safety concern, and therefore oftentimes the animals have to be euthanized. I can understand why people might feel like they're doing a good thing by feeding wild animals, but for the most part they're doing nothing but harming them. And there's a multitude of different reasons why it's a bad thing to feed wild deer. The fact that these neighbors have been feeding these deer for 10 years is just complete ignorance, and it's only for their own enjoyment because they're not helping the deer, and they could easily find that out with a quick Google search. But they don't care about that. It's not for the deer, it's for themselves. If they really did care about the deer, they wouldn't feed them to begin with. They would do their due diligence and learn about why they shouldn't. And this commenter here has a similar experience. They say stuff like this actually pisses me off because I have a relative who feeds local wildlife. It actually turned into a huge fight because our community was in the news at one point because of another neighbor who was feeding wildlife, and it created a dangerous situation for someone else on the street. When I say news, I mean it made national news. Basically what happened is that there was a young family who bought a home, and their home was terrorized by local wildlife, that they had to move mere weeks after they moved in. The reason was because of this neighbor who was known for feeding alligators and whatnot. When the story went viral, the whole family tried to get through to her to stop feeding the animals. She's lucky that news story wasn't about her. We tried to explain to her that she's in a fishbowl now. She can't be acting like this anymore. She refused to listen. Instead of throwing old food away, she would, quote, give it to the raccoons, aka she would just dump it on the driveway. Eggs, old berries, leftover Mexican food. It was disgusting. At one point, I had to live in that house, and I ended up with scratches all over my new car, because she kept bringing these large birds to the house. When they see the reflection in something like a car door, they start pecking at the car. So now I have scratches all over one side of my vehicle, which this person has refused to fix. I had a straight-up screaming match with her one time when I opened my back door to find that she left a rotisserie chicken on the grass outside my patio. I basically had an efficiency on the property. This was the area that I went outside in the mornings to have coffee and relax before getting ready for work, and I'm greeted by this rotting f***ing chicken. The smell, the massive swarm of insects that you could literally hear gnawing on the chicken. It left a huge hole in the grass. The image of that rotisserie chicken nearly black because it was covered in insects is probably the most disgusting image that is forever burned into my brain. The reason? I saw a raccoon out there and I felt bad. Florida. Squatters moved in hours after mobile home is prepped for demolition, claiming constructive eviction. Police won't help. My mother still lived in a very old mobile home on land that she owns. She's lived alone since my dad died 5 years ago and has never had a tenant, other than my siblings after we turned 18, if you want to get super technical. Hurricane Irma was the final straw. Along with issues that existed before the storm, the trailer now needed a whole new roof. By December, my mom finally accepted that the home she had for nearly 40 years was toast. She decided to demolish it and put a nice new mobile home on the land. She moved in with us in January and we began to remove everything from the trailer since then. It took time due to work and kids, but we finally got everything out on March 19th. That morning, a charity came and picked up the stove, fridge, sinks, toilets, plumbing fixtures, light fixtures, etc. The trailer was as close to gutted as you can get without taking it to the studs. We took pictures and video. We put up the hurricane shutters that locked and installed padlocks on the front and back door. My husband then installed a few battery-operated motion sensor cameras on the property. We chained up the front gate with a heavy chain and padlock as we left around 3 p.m. Electric and water were officially shut off by their respective companies the next day, Tuesday, March 20th. They'd been shut off at the breaker and valve for about 2 weeks before that. I can guarantee no one has lived on the property since January. For damn sure, no one was living there on March 19th. It has no place to cook, use the bathroom, or shower. We were worried about teenagers breaking in and my mom having a liability issue. We never imagined what would happen. Yesterday, my mom received a certified handwritten letter from someone she's never heard of claiming to be her tenant. It was addressed to my mom's property and was forwarded to where she is staying at my place. The return address was the same as the to address. The letter was dated on March 20th but mailed March 21st. Dear Miss Mom's name, as your tenants, we demand the electricity and water be turned back on immediately. We also demand the return of the refrigerator, stove, sinks, toilets, and taps. If you wish to evict us, please attempt to do so legally, or pay us $10,000 to vacate early. Failure to do so will leave us no choice but to sue you for $50,000 for illegal constructive eviction. You have until March 30th to decide what you will do, or you will hear from our lawyer. Squatter's name, my mom's address. My mom, husband, and I immediately headed out to the property. We couldn't get past the front gate because someone had removed our chain and padlock and replaced it with their own. My husband walked down the fence line to where he could see the trailer. There was a pickup truck and 2 cars parked, hurricane shutters were removed, and a generator was running. My husband took pictures and videos. Meanwhile, I was able to access the security camera pointed at the front gate and got the microSD card. I also looked in the mailbox and saw a letter addressed to the squatters at my mom's address, from the squatter using my mom's address as his return address. I didn't touch or remove the letter, I just took a picture of it. We immediately headed to the police station. On the way, I accessed the SD card. It showed us leaving the afternoon of March 19th. Then 2 hours later, 3 guys show up in a pickup truck and remove the chain with a blowtorch, and they drive into the property. An hour later, the truck leaves. The next morning, March 20th at 7 a.m., a U-Haul van pulls into the property followed by the same pickup truck with furniture in the truck bed. The 2 cars showed up the same day around noon. U-Haul van left around 4 p.m., followed by one of the cars. The car returned around 7 p.m. and they put the new chain and padlock on. The rest of the days were just the truck and cars going in and out at various times. We have all the license plates and some faces on video. When we talked to the officer, we showed him the letter, the security footage, our stuff showing the state of the property when we left it, and the pictures of the property from that day. This isn't a police matter, it's civil. You can't have us evict tenants without a court order. Wait, what? I suggest you make the house habitable immediately, or you're going to spend a lot of money on a lawyer. My mom just started sobbing. My husband demanded to speak to the officer's superior. We were told we couldn't. I stupidly said that I wouldn't leave until his superior confirmed that the police couldn't help. The officer threatened to have us arrested for trespassing, so we left. I did make sure to get the officer's info, a picture of him and a picture of us at the police station, to prove we tried to file a report. It was after 7 p.m., so there wasn't much more we could do yesterday. Our plan of action today is to try the police again, and hope we get another officer who's willing to at least take a report. We're just so lost right now. My mom is on the verge of a complete breakdown, and I'm not far behind. I just can't come to terms with the idea that this could be legal. Edit. The water company just notified my mom that someone attempted to open an account at my mom's address. She didn't cancel her account, just put it on a hiatus of sorts, and will have to pay a flat fee until she takes the account off hiatus and service resumes. They thought my mom was trying to reactivate the account and had used the wrong protocol. They won't give her any more information on who tried to open the account. We're heading back to the police station within an hour. Update. The squatters/trespassers solved this problem themselves by burning down the damn trailer. No serious injuries. We weren't given all the details, but this is what we were told when we got to the station this morning. Around 8:30 p.m. last night, about 90 minutes after we left the police station after the officer refused to take a report, a neighbor called 911 to report the fire. 2 officers on patrol were the first to arrive, and found 4 people attempting to unlock the front gate from inside the gate, with 3 vehicles behind them blocking the path the fire truck would need to drive through. The officers ordered them to get back in their vehicles to clear the path. They complied while the officers somehow, no details yet, got the gate open so the fire truck could get in. They then observed 3 adult males attempting to climb the fence to get away. They managed to stop them and place them under arrest. There apparently was some violence. There were 3 more adults and an undisclosed number of children in the vehicles. By this point, the trailer was fully engulfed. The firefighters arrived and eventually put the fire out. One of the men arrested was the man who sent my mom the letter. He is a convicted felon with a long rap sheet that included possession of meth, extortion, battery, domestic violence, and burglary. He also was renting a house less than half a mile from my mother's property, and a judge issued a writ of possession due to non-payment of rent the Friday before they broke into my mom's property. He is currently still hospitalized and being held for assaulting an officer. They didn't tell us the extent of his injuries other than a generic, no serious injuries statement when the detective first informed us of the fire. So here's the best we could piece together. A desperate felon is facing eviction and he notices a nearby property is being cleared out. He sees us fully lock down the property, signaling no one would be there for a while. He and a few other guys break in, and with the writ of possession issued, decides to move his family in despite the unlivable conditions. He then gets greedy and tries to scare a little old lady into either giving him money or a free habitable place to crash for a while. Last night, since there was no electricity, they either were cooking food or using candles. I don't want to think what else it may have been with that meth charge, and managed to catch the trailer on fire. They attempted to ditch before the fire department got there, but someone forgot to grab the key to the gate. Going on what we were told, I don't think anybody on the property called in the fire. Again, thank you all for your suggestions. If this ever happens again, I'll have a screaming fit first, then I will put y'all's suggestions to good use. Anyway friends, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for watching. As always, I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this, and drop a comment down below. So take care, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time.